Hello, family and friends. Welcome to Laclede Relics. I'm your host and historian, Eric Tudor. With our 175th anniversary of Lebanon happening now, we wanted to talk about some major points of history that put and kept Lebanon on the map. From pre-Lebanon, the Wyoda years, to the Civil War, to boomtown, to the Mother Road of Route 66. Sit back and enjoy learning about how Lebanon became the town it is today, and I hope that you can learn something. Now, on with the show. Our earliest origins of the region. For Lebanon's origin story, we've got to go back to the Native American Indian name. That was given to the area, which is Wyoda. Now, Missouri became an official state back in 1821. However, most of the mid-region of the state was nothing more than a hunting camp for many tribes, but notably for the Osage Indians. Now, here they found an abundance of deer, bear, buffalo, and wild turkey. They would leave their homes in Oklahoma and Kansas and make the journey to our area, where they would set up temporary camps for weeks and months at a time, harvesting food to take back to their people. Now, this left most of the area rugged and unsettled up until just a few years before the Civil War. Now, one of the only known landmarks of the Native American origins would have to be the old sinkhole off of Harwood Avenue. Kind of lays down in the Old Town area of Lebanon. As you're traveling down Harwood, it would be on the left-hand side. Traveling north, and it's almost directly across from St. Louis Street. Now here the Native American Indians were said to have celebrated their hunts by holding powwows and dances inside this massive sinkhole. We jump to the mid-1800s. We're going to call that the era of the stagecoaches, which delivered not only U.S. mail, but also travelers throughout the area. And I've discovered several of these in our little direct area of Laclede County and in and around Lebanon. One of the first ones is the Butterfield stagecoach. Now, although it's a bit of a mystery on the exact location, due to it did not have a concrete foundation or a rock foundation, we do know it laid out east of Lebanon, and we also know that it was owned and operated by the Appling family for many years. Another stagecoach in the area would be Old Wire Road Stagecoach. Now, it was owned by the Benton family, and it was located out Old Route 66. According to Lebanon native, lawyer, historian Don O. Vernon, Wild Bill Hickok actually once stayed there. Now, a third I stumbled across by purchasing an original 1910s postcard. Now, according to the handwritten notes, and I'm going to show this now, on the front it says, house owned one time by Grandpa Allison in Lebanon, Missouri. Now, based on research, I found out that this house actually served as a stagecoach stop as well as a boarding house. We're going to call it the Allison home. It was built around 1840, and it lies off of Finch or New Buffalo Road on the left-hand side as you're heading out towards the radio station. It's currently owned by the Donald Jones family and has been for about 20 years or more. It is considered one, if not the oldest house still standing in Laclede County. While we have no proof, legends also state that Abraham Lincoln once stayed there while traveling through the area. Now we jump to the founding of Lebanon. This would be in 1849, 175 years ago as we're here upon the anniversary. Now, Lebanon was officially founded sometime in 1849. The old name Wyoda was actually considered, but eventually the name Lebanon, based upon Lebanon, Tennessee, was selected. Some of the early pioneering families were from Tennessee, and apparently they were quite fond of the area of Lebanon, Tennessee, and they wanted to adopt that name for Lebanon, Missouri. The Benjamin B. Harrison and James M. Appling families together donated 50 acres that would serve as the building spot to locate what is commonly now known as Old Town, Lebanon, Missouri. It originally laid out kind of in a public square of sorts, complete with the original log cabin courthouse. As I had mentioned earlier, the old sinkhole to your left off of Harwood. I remember tales in the 1960s and 70s when there was an opening found down in the sinkhole that led to a cave. Now, the story goes that some teenagers got inside and they required an emergency rescue. Shortly after, the city, we're going to say sometime probably in the late 60s, early 70s, put up bars to keep people out, and later still it was backfilled for safety. Then we jump to the old Vernon School, which was once located where Vernon Heights is today. You'll see it there on the map that we've got up, but not before it served as the city park. Now, the park was later moved up the street, up by where the water tower is today, just a few blocks, and Vernon Heights Apartments was built in the location. Lebanon's first school, the Old Academy, was actually located in Old Town, built in 1855, and it was mentioned in Harold Bell Wright's book, The Calling of Dan Matthews, which already was in ruins when he lived here in about 1905-1906 era, and you can see a picture of that we have as well. There's actually so much rich history about Old Town. We will definitely be covering that on some future episodes. But by 1863, the nation was torn apart, North versus South, during the Civil War. There were notable Civil War skirmishes in and around Lebanon and Laclede County for sure, but I will share a few of my favorites that I've learned from locals. Now, one story was told to me by Virginia Rhodes back in the 1990s, and it involved what was known as the Keystone Mansion House. Now, it was torn down to advance Clark Street when Easter Elementary School was built. Now, she had told me a story that had been passed down to her about Union troops sneaking into Lebanon on Old Wire Road, which is Cannoli Street, leading out to YY Highway. You can see there on the slide of the Keystone entryways. You can still see one of the brick stone entryways still there today, even though that they did bulldoze the house down. Now, as Union forces approached, a black servant man noticed, and he went to ring the large dinner bell on the side of the porch to alert the Kellerman and Nelson family that originally lived there. He was then shot by one of the advancing Union soldiers and fell dead. Now, many years later, when I was serving in the Laclede Historical Society, there was an African-American family. They had traveled down to give a presentation on Old Town in particular and some of their family that was here. They stated they had family from the area and that there was actually an old black slave cemetery behind the Keystone Mansion. This would now be located off of Harwood in the corner of North 5, across from what today is Enterprise Rent-A-Car. The last story is a Civil War story that takes place back in Old Town. One evening, the Union troops marched into Old Wire Road, also known as the Telegraph Road, which brought the telegraph wires into Lebanon, up Cherry Street, over to Wood Street. Now there they found what would become eventually the Wood Street Baptist Church site. At the time, it was a livery stable. They took control of the dwellings there, setting up a camp and a medical hospital. Upon leaving, they burned everything. However, the timber structure still stood. And later, after the Civil War, freed slaves would put a roof on this structure and enclose it to become what we know today as the Wood Street Baptist Church. The Civil War finally came to a close in 1868, which allowed the railroad to proceed from its previous stop in Rolla, Missouri, to our little town of Lebanon. The San Francisco Railroad approached our founding forefathers and asked them for a piece of land to be donated to build the train depot. For whatever reason, the railroad was turned down, but so determined, the railroad company said, "Fine, we'll take it a mile from you, and eventually, maybe, the little town of Lebanon will expand its boundaries to there." As I was told, the founding forefathers had second thoughts, even trying to reach back out to the railroad company without any luck. So we did the next best thing. We packed up the entire city and moved it where the railroad tracks were coming through. That's why you have an old town and why Main Street was left behind and gave birth to Commercial Street, essentially our new Main Street downtown. Thus, why many people ask, why does Lebanon not lay traditionally north to south, east to west? Well, because the tracks were already being laid, and we just followed its path. The Magnetic Well, 1889. With the Frisco Railroad and the city of Lebanon now residing together, it opened up great chances of prosperity. Now, previously in 1889, there had been a great discovery of sorts while drilling a well in the new area of Lebanon, near the end of Commercial. While drilling, workers noticed the auger bit was covered with water and it seemed to be magnetic, with metal flakes sticking to it, as well as some would report small tools. Looking back, it's argued that this may have been nothing more than friction to the metal bit, the auger bit, and stone, causing the metal itself to become a magnet. However, the conclusion was quickly met with, we have a magnetic well with water. Built to help prepare for visitors for all of this U.S. tourism that would be coming through, was the grandest of all Lebanon hotels, rivaling anything that you would find even in St. Louis or Kansas City. the Gascony Hotel. This beautiful hotel could accommodate up to 500 visitors with front door service. It had a circular drive that brought tourists around this great water fountain that was in the front. Now, at first this was done by horse and stagecoach, then later a trolley car. Rumors are that the tracks still lay underneath that paved road that leads over to now Gascony Park. As we come more present, the Mother Road, Route 66. Moving forward to 1926, Lebanon was again faced with some major decision-making. The Mother Road, Route 66, approached. Following some of the old original Indian trails, the stagecoach, the telegraph lines, all these dirt roads, and it would become known as the Mother Road, over 2,400 miles long, connecting Chicago all the way to Los Angeles, California. The founding forefathers seem to have learned their lesson with the whole railroad ordeal, and this time they fought to get Route 66 to come to Lebanon. However, the railroad had encountered some major issues crossing many rivers, including the Hazel Green, the Piney, the Little Piney, Ruby Dew, and Gasconade in multiple spots. And it was also noted the slight elevation of the plateau that Lebanon sat on. All of these meant more money and more time to build more bridges to prepare for the Mother Road. An alternative path was proposed, skipping Lebanon entirely. Instead, it was suggested for the less challenging route on what would later become Highway 60, would divert around Lebanon and go to Springfield. Many local businessmen, including Don O. Vernon, resident, lawyer, and close friend to the author Harold Bell Wright, took on the task with a vengeance. A group of delegates from Lebanon went to the capital in Jeff City, accompanied by the Lebanon Band. Now, they performed for the state executives, put on quite the show, as I am told. They were successful in getting the state to meet at Hazel Green, where there was already an existing steel trestle bridge. The founding fathers and locals suggested using that bridge to help save money and time, and offered an alternative route in and around through Bear Creek to come up to Lebanon. With much trouble and time, it was finally declared Route 66 would lead directly through our little town of Lebanon. Thanks everyone for watching and being a part of this journey with us on Laclede Relics. Please stay tuned as we take deeper dives on some of these subjects and beyond. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend. Drop what you've learned today in the comments. If there's any particular part of Lebanon's history you'd like to see us feature, feel free. Just let us know. Until next time, I'm your host and historian, Eric Tudor, along with my editor extraordinaire and producer, Ryan Shear. Together, we invite you on another trip down memory lane that you'll only find on Laclede Relics.